Hey everybody, Billy from Billy's Bike Adventures. Thanks for tuning in today and watching my video. If you have subscribed to my channel already, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated for your support. If you haven't, bottom right hand corner there's a subscribe button. Just click that, that'll give you all the access to my other videos as well. So what are we doing today? Well, last week I showed you how to remove the rear wheel off the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. Today I'm going to remove the front wheel and reinstall it. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now the reason I do this is because when I take the wheels off my bike, I can take them to my tyre supplier, get them to change my tyres, and I can reinstall them myself. This saves me about £50 instead of taking the bike into the tyre supplier and paying them for labour to remove the wheels. It's cheaper for me to do that. So if that's of some interest to you, the front wheel is going to come off today, so let's get into it. Now the first thing for me is to remove the front mudguard. Now I do this just for completeness. You don't need to do it to be able to take the wheel off, but I just like to do it. It gives you a bit more room to play with. So let's get that taken off. You're going to need a T27 spider web-like Allen key. Speed sensor for the front wheel is here, so you'll need to take that out before doing anything else, just so you don't forget to do that. So let's get that done. And that's your speed sensor out. Now to be able to do this properly, one of the things you're going to need to do is to be able to lift up the front wheel so it's not touching the floor. It's actually on the floor at the moment. So what I've got my wife's car jack out of her car. I'm going to use that with a plank of wood. I'm going to position that under my bash plate, and then I'm just going to raise it up just enough to lift the front wheel off the ground, and that way you'll be able to remove the wheel without any problem at all. Before you do that though, you will need to have the axle nuts loosened off first, but we need to take the brake calipers off before we do that. The next thing we need to do now is to loosen off these two caliper screws here, and that'll release the calipers from their holding position here. So we've got to do those on both sides. Now to release the two nuts here to take your brake calipers off, you are going to need a star socket and a T45 star socket to be able to do that. I'm going to do the same as the other side. So I've taken my brake calipers off now, and what I've done is that I have them resting on the bit of wood that I've got going across my bash plate on top of my jack, and so that is that the brake calipers are not hanging down and there's no undue pressure on the ends of the cables here, so they're just resting there. The jack's in place ready to lift the front wheel off the ground, but first of all we've got to unloosen the axle nut. You'll need a 32mm socket to do that, and potentially a breaker bar. It's not as tight as the rear wheel, so it should come undone straightforward. There we go. And all we can do now is just continue to take that out. So I'm just going to show you now, there's a set of screws, one more set of screws to undo, and they are the axle bar grips, and they are situated right underneath here. So you've got two screws here, torque tightness specified by the manufacturer. So you just need to unloosen these, not to take them all the way out, but just unloosen them so that the axle can slip out nicely. So now with the nuts either side for the axle grip unloosened, we can now push the axle out. So you'll need to get your knees underneath the wheel, and then fingers in, and then lift up. There we go. A little bit of jiggery pokery and that axle will pop right out. Don't forget you've got your spacer here, so just make sure that doesn't pop out, or if it does, put it down somewhere safe that you can put that back in at the install point. So that's my front wheel off now. There's the car jack holding the front of the end of the bike up. But as you can see, with the wheel off now, good opportunity just to do some additional cleaning whilst you've got the wheel off. So I'll get these cleaned up now, these forks, and I will show you how to reinstall the front wheel. I'm really enjoying getting used to finding out how to and learning how to take wheels off and getting to know my bike a bit more, because it really does provide the opportunity to have your bike a little bit cleaner than what you actually think you've got it. So very happy that I've decided to do this, because it just means that I'm able to get things a little bit cleaner than what I thought I had them. So very happy I've decided to do this. I hope you learn to do the same too. It's quite a rewarding thing. Don't be scared. I've got no mechanical experience whatsoever, and I've just learned how to do this just by reading about it and looking online. So if you want to have a go, then don't be afraid to do it. It's actually very, very rewarding. So I've got the front wheel off the bike now, just cleaned up the forks of the dirt, the dirt that you don't see when you don't take the front wheel off. But importantly now we need to put some fresh grease on the axle before we reinstall the front wheel. So first things first, let's make sure your spacer is back where it needs to be on the left hand side of the wheel. And so we're just going to slide the wheel in there now, get ready for it, and what we'll do is I'll move a little bit closer to the wheel and I will support the wheel on my legs slightly, and hopefully we'll be able to get this axle in without any worries at all. Alright, here we go. That's the axle back in. So next thing to do is to put your nut back in, but we're only going to do that finger tight. We're not going to do that torque tight at this time. We've got a few other things to do first. So that's the wheel back on and the axle nut back in. So before I tighten everything back up now with my torque wrench, thing I need to do first is put the brake calipers back on. So at the moment the axle nut is still finger tight, and the axle clamp holders, they're still loose at the moment. So I'm going to put the brake calipers back on first and put the nuts in and the bolts in for that finger tight. And I'm going to do those up just kind of hand tight with my wrench first. So they're just finger tight at the moment, or hand tight, and I'm going to do the same on the other side before I go any further. So with both brake calipers now back on, first thing to do is to torque tighten the axle nut and the axle nut on the front for the front wheel of the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R is 45 Newton meters of torque. There we go, front wheel done. So what I'll do now, before I do anything else, is that I'll lower the bike onto full weight on the front wheel now. So the front wheel axle nut, that's done to 45 Newton meters of torque. The brake calipers are also done to tighten to 45 millimeters of torque, and the axle tighteners underneath are done to 15 Newton meters of torque. So that's all done now. So last thing for me to do before I put the front mudguard back on is to reinstall the speed sensor. So let me get that done now. Last thing to do now is to reinstall the mudguard. So let's get that done. So that's the front wheel installed back on the bike, and the one thing you'll have to do now is take the bike out for a quick test, make sure those front brakes you pump those front brakes before you do anything significant in terms of speed on the bike. So just go up and down your street and test the brakes just to make sure that they're working properly. Hope that has been of some interest to you. If it has, please give me a thumbs up and a like. That would be great if you can do that on my video. And if you haven't subscribed already, bottom right hand corner, please click that subscribe button and you'll get access to all my other videos. Please leave any comments or questions you've got regarding removal and reinstall of the front wheel underneath, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, normally within 24 hours. So for now, thanks very much for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you again very soon.